A new national report card on public school funding gives a failing grade to Nevada, ranking our state the worst in the nation. Kim Passoff joins us live now to break it down. Kim.
Yeah, Joe, the report looked at public school funding across the nation for the 2019-2020 school year when the COVID-19 pandemic caused a massive disruption for education. Nevada, the only state to get Fs across the board. States were graded in 3 categories: funding level, funding distribution, and funding effort. 27 other states received an F in 1 or 2 categories. John Velardita, executive director of Nevada's largest teachers union, says the report comes as no surprise.
I think it states the obvious. I think the most significant report that has been issued related to, Nevada's public education system is the one issued by the Commission on School Funding, and that report was issued in November. In that report, it proposes a 10-year plan to invest over $200 million each year in our K-12 system to get us to the national average of per pupil funding.
Not only does Nevada rank in the bottom 5 for funding per pupil, Nevada's funding distribution was deemed worst in the nation. The report found students in districts where poverty was low averaged $12,898 in funding per student, while in high poverty districts, the average dropped to just $9,382 a student. The report from the Education Law Center found when the COVID-19 pandemic began, it exposed funding inadequacies and inequities, especially in low-income communities. Many schools not equipped to educate students during a public health crisis, lacking technology and access to support staff.
We have a teacher shortage here on a scale that's I would describe as a crisis. Here, just in southern Nevada, we have, close to 30,000 kids that started the school year and will end the school year, and they won't have a full-time licensed professional. They'll have either a substitute or some kind of makeshift classroom for them to learn. That's not the appropriate classroom setting for a student to learn.
NCCEA says that they will be pushing for that additional $200 million in funding from the state when the legislative session opens in February. They say that there should be a state surplus budget of about $1 billion, so some of that money should go to the schools. Reporting live tonight in Henderson, Kim Passoff, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
The report concludes students who had less funding lacked resources for academic success as well as social and emotional well-being.